So I've done some little extra weight painting trying to generate a balance between what is, the lower part of his torso and his legs. And I ended up adding some more influence from the root joint so that the root joint controls a little bit of the lower butt area, and of course the hips having a little more control over the rest of it. We may have to do some extra fine tuning on the up, going up the body for him to when he do the rotation. I'm gonna just take care of that later. For now, I'm gonna take a peek at how the weight work on his hands and see if how the each one of the joints influence, starting with the wrist. And I'm still on the FK arm, so I'll see that the hand itself is not um, deforming in a typical way. So actually, I'm not going to touch that. I'm going to take a look at the fingers and see what the fingers are doing, and I'm going to start with that thumb when I'm going to try to bend it to where I need it to be. Let me just make sure that I'm bending the FK, the main arm, the main skeleton, not the FK. So I'm going to do a little bit of deformation here. Remember that all our values have to be, our joints have to be on 0. So I'm not afraid of moving it right now because all of them are doing can be brought to 0 at any point. So there it is. It looks fine. When I go to the opposite direction, I'm seeing a little bit of deformation here. That looks a little odd, and I may have to do a little bit of a painting of this part to the main joint. And this guy, I'm gonna just bring it back to 0 so I can see what's going on with it. So this one seems to be okay. There is a little too much of influence of it on this area, so I'm actually gonna go and add a little bit of weight painting on the wrist, just to add some influence to the thumb. I'm gonna just try to do it with adding a small amount there, just to see if I can control it a bit more. Okay, so let me try to rotate this one more time. I don't have any controllers on the hand so far, so you just have to do the joints a little bit manually. And yeah, I think that this guy is a little too much influence there, so I'm gonna try to push this guys back up. I'm painting on the wrist, and actually I'm gonna move on to the palm itself to see if I can bring back some of these uh, weights here. I'm just adding small amounts so that I can control it and I'm not doing too drastic of deformation. So yeah, it takes me a little bit longer to get it done, but it's safer. So I'm going to increase this one to 0.1 to add some more influence in this joint. I want the palm to influence this area a bit more. Okay, that makes it a little bit better and easier. Now I'm going to bring this joint back to 0. And I'm going to do some finger work, starting with the index finger. So I'm going to select the 3 joints and I'm going to try to pose them to see how they are curving. And you can typically just see how the geometry is doing the curving, but it looks more like a sausage. So I want to do a little bit of work on each one of them, so that the each joint has a little bit of the influence that it needs to have. So I'm gonna go back and then go back to the main palm I'm trying to generate a little bit work on the knuckles here, so that I haven't changed my geometry of Cecil's original Cecil's hand, so your hand's a little bit different compared to this one. Hopefully the geometry you have is a little bit better than Cecil's here. And I'm just adding influence to some of those joints that belong, or better, to some of the vertices that belong to the index finger or to the first knuckle, so that it starts bulging out. A little bit better that way there. Okay, I may have to go back and fine tune a bit more, but I'm gonna go into the second one, and the second one will exactly do the same. Apply influence on those vertices that are closest, of course, and that will generate some wrinkling here, which is exactly what I want. If it is hard to find the vertices, you just definitely go to the version 1 of your geometry. That way you'll really paint on the actual location of those vertices. I'm getting closer to the next knuckle, but I'm trying to push it as much as possible so that I can have a big influence here. I'm actually going to go back up one moment to the first one to try to generate this guy to go back up a bit more. And then the next one is going to receive more influence. I'm going to increase the value here to 0.2 so that I can paint stronger influence on this knuckle. If I paint on this one, let's see, I'm just trying to generate a sharper knuckle there, and maybe this one will give me a better sharper knuckle. Yeah, probably that makes a little bit more a pointier the way I want it there. It's a big transition from this one to the next one above. And of course, this guy is going to want to have a good influence on this side here. And then I'm going to go and do the last one, which was going to need a good amount of influence here. I'd rather be clicking multiple times to add influence and not having just a lot of influence added at once. This way makes it a little bit more control. If it's hard for you to see, just simply, of course, you can bring the finger back up and try to paint on it there. Only that here you are going to be sort of painting without knowing exactly what the deformation is going to bring. Of course, we want this guy to be receiving the tip here, receiving full influence from that second to last joint, or the index finger 3. Yep. Okay. Okay, so that will give me a better solution for, and I can do some more of that. I actually could go a lot more here and do additional painting on them to generate that sharp transition that I want. I'm going to increase my value here, see if I can have a little more, a little bit strong transition there. There we go. Just always afraid of pushing too hard because you don't want to have deformation being too strong, or deforming, pushing the weights a little too much and then having to go back later on. Okay, that gives me a better transition there between each finger, and I could just do a little bit extra there, but I'm going to let you work on your own, getting all fingers pretty much figured out, all of them following the same process. Don't forget to bring everything back to zero when you are done. In terms of rotation, translation you cannot bring back to zero, but rotation you can. Okay, I'm make sure with this test guys too also back to zero, and it is all good. And of course, when you're done with your fingers, you can mirror all your weight paint again, just to have it all corrected.